Well, how are you doing? This is going to be a video about how another video in the series that I've made about how the dip correction absolutely annihilates the heliocentric model, the celestial navigation dip correction. Um, for this, I'm actually going to use. I wasn't going to make this argument before, but I've looked. I'm actually going to use their dip to their refracted horizon because this proves that what they're claiming to be a refracted horizon is and what they which is basically what they basically are trying to claim is a changing arc length, right? That's what they're trying to claim. But the dip, right, that they use, the refracted horizon dip, right, is basically constantly in line with the height of y corrections, right? And the height of y corrections is the height of y above the water that the eye line is. So when someone's using the sextant, if their eye line is, let's just say I have it up here 2 meters above the water below the boat, then that is the correction, right? And their refracted dip correction seems to constantly match it. I wonder why that is, right? Now this has been pointed out a bit in the past, but no one really focused on it. I think Adam pointed this out. Adam Meakin pointed this out in the past. Maybe Quantum Eraser, but I know it's been pointed out in the past, but no one focused on it, right? Now I'm going to focus on it more because I did focus on it before, but I didn't get around to making this argument. But I'm making it now. So, if at 2 meters eye height, the refracted horizon dip is 0.042 degrees, right? Then that would mean that, 1 second now, we're just going to go to 0.042, right? So that's calculated already, and it comes out at 2.52 minutes, right? So that's 2.52 minutes of degree, right? Now, if we come to this, which is our correction table for dip to the horizon, right? So you have a height above horizon, correction on altitude, distance to the horizon. Now this is a trigonometric function, which means that they have this is a triangle. This is how they've calculated the distance to the horizon. It's a triangle. That's what it is, and it's based off the height of the eye above the water, right? So I just want to come down here. Height above horizon is the height above the sea level in meters at which the sextant is held during the celestial observation. So they're talking about the eye level height above the horizon being equal in elevation to the water underneath the boat. That's what they're talking about. Correction on altitude is the angle in minutes of arc by which the altitude has to be corrected to account for the effect of dip. Distance to the horizon is the distance in nautical miles to the apparent horizon, right? So this might be a little bit confusing for some people, but what this is saying, right? What this is saying is that is that the correction for dip to the horizon is that the horizon, right, point is in a direct horizontal with the water underneath the boat. And I'll show you now what I mean. So this is a diagram, just one diagram I put together. So let's say this is the person's height of y. This is the GP point. This is the horizon, right? What they must do is correct their eye line down to the water level underneath their boat. So if this is their eye line, this is the water underneath their boat, they must correct their eye line down, right? And in that, that table we just looked at, they are correcting. This is the calculation to their distance to their horizon is based on this triangle here. That's what it's based on, and it starts with this calculation, the height of the observer's eye above the water. So once that is calculated for, then the eye line is mathematically in a direct horizontal through the horizon and onto the GP point, and that's what it is. So it makes a horizontal, uh, right? So this is how it works. This is what happens, and what they're actually admitting, right here, what they're actually saying here is the correction table for dip to the horizon, right? So I come down again, is height above horizon. They're not saying height above the water, they're saying height above horizon is the height above the sea level in meters at which the sextant is held during the celestial observation. The sextant is held on the boat, not at the horizon. It's looking at the horizon, it's using the horizon, but the sextant is held on the boat above the water underneath the boat. So the correction is for the height of the observer's eye above the water underneath the boat. So the distance to the horizon, right, is a calculation they've put in, right, but it has no bearing on anything because the horizon is not a physical location. It moves around constantly, but they just have a calculation because that's how they've done the trigonometry, right? Because that's what it is. It's a dip angle correction, right? It doesn't matter what, like it doesn't matter if I bring this back here or bring this further out here. That won't change this correction here. That's the dip correction, which is a constant. So if a navigator is on a boat for 3 weeks, they'll measure their height of eye above the water at port, and that is regardless of how far away from them the horizon is, or how close to them the horizon is on any given sighting. Their dip correction will always be exactly the same. They won't change the dip correction because it's all based on the height of eye above the water. So that will be a constant right there, right? So that's what the dip correction is. And just to give some little bit more uh, meat on the bones for the dip correction before I go back to what we're doing. Here we have, right, dip correction, figure 2.8. The height of the observer's eye above sea level determines the dip. This angle must be removed from the altitude of the celestial body above the horizon that is measured with a sextant, right? So, right, figure observer's horizon, geodal horizon, figure 2.7. The nautical almanac and the site reduction tables assume that the sites are taken at sea level, for instance, from the periscope of a submarine barely emerging above the water. So if we come up here and look at this table, right, in meters and feet, when this something was pointed out by 10th man, that when there are 0 feet and 0 meters, there's no reason for a correction. 0.0. There's no need for a correction when there's 0 feet and 0 meters, right? But that can't be the case on the globe, and I'll show you why. Because if we bring this eye line down to sea level, right, sorry, that sea level underneath the boat, there is still going to be a need for a correction because there's still a curve because the horizon still has to be below the water, below the elevation of the water underneath the boat. There's no way around it. It has to be on a globe, right? So this here, that would still have to be accounted for, right? Wherever that would be back here, but it would still have to be accounted for. There'd be no way around it because you would still have a dip below the horizontal on a globe. But in reality, when your eye line is mathematically being brought down to the water underneath your boat, there's no dip needed. In reality, but if you're on a globe, then the reality would be that there would be a dip needed. So, it's nonsense. Like, there's no way around this for the globe. They don't correct for a curved surface. They don't correct for a globe. They only ever correct them for a horizontal surface, which is why at 0 feet or 0 meters, there's 0 dip correction. No need for dip correction because there's no dip because your eye line is at the horizontal that's needed. So if we come down here, here, height of the eye. The height of the eye over the surface of the water in feet or meters. The site reduction tables used for a site with a sextant assume the height to be at ocean level. Right, ocean level. Level is horizontal. In the general case, and because of the height of the eye above sea level, the angle measured with a sextant HS is a little too high since the actual horizon seen by the observer is a little further away and therefore a little below the rational horizon at the edge of the horizontal plane. Right, so that's what they're talking about there. Right, how the height of eye has to come down to sea level, which is the water underneath the boat. And at sea level, right, once it's down at the water underneath the boat, there's no need for a dip correction because it's a horizontal. Sea level is horizontal. That's why you don't need to do dip correction. So onto here. So this is from, sorry, this is from, I'm not sure which book this is from, but it's one of the main ones. But the next thing we must account for is the fact that the horizon we see is not really 90 degrees from our zenith or from the vertical, unless our eye is right at sea level. At sea level, the horizon is tangent to the sea surface and at right angles to the vertical, right? So this is from, here it's from Harold Jacobi. The point directly overhead is the zenith. The angle between the lines drawn to horizon and zenith is 90 degrees or right angle. So they are constantly correcting for a right angle, when they with these tables. So they're correcting for a right angle, right? So the distance to the horizon thing is just a calculation based on a right angle calculation. That's all it is. So the 2 meter correction here is 2.5, right? 2.5 right? So if we just go back here a second. So here was after we calculated 2 meters of using the refracted horizon, we calculated that. We got 2.52, right? And the correction tables are 2.5. So the globe's for refracted horizon, right, is trying to match the celestial navigation height of eye correction, right? So that it just shows that it's all back calculated. All their nonsense, their standard refraction, all this is all back calculated from reality, as this is based on, right, once again, height above horizon is the height above the sea level in meters at which the sextant is held during the celestial observation. The sextant is held on the boat. So if the height is above sea level, right, and they're talking about height above horizon, then the water underneath and the height of eye is a correction for the height of the eye above the water, right? And once again, I show you the height of the eye right above the water down to the water. That's what the correction is, right? And once that happens, there is no need for a correction. Once your eye line is at zero, you don't need to correct. You need to correct if your eye line is above. But this, what they're saying there in the correction tables, is that that is the same if you brought that line straight out here. The height would be exactly the same above the horizon as it is and above the GP point as it is above the water below the boat. So once the eye line comes down to the water below the boat, mathematically, they're making a complete horizontal line between the water underneath the boat and the GP point of the celestial body. That's what they're doing. So this is what they must do. So what this here, their distance to the horizon part, that's a calculation based off of trigonometry. That's how they're working that. Because they have to. There's no other way to do it. But that's what they must use, and that's what they do use in reality. So in reality, what is a right angle triangle, right? And the correction for 2 meter observer height, right? Which is the height above sea level, the sea level in meters, so which the sextant is held during the celestial observation, right? The globe's standard refraction horizon is trying to match that, right? So let's go further. Let's go to 5 meters, right? 5 meters is 0.066, right, degrees. So we come up here, 0.066, right, calculate, right, right, which is 3.96. That was 5 meters. So let's go here, right. So where's 5? 4.9. Right, so 5, just right, so 3.9 here, 3.9, and here is 3.96. So, and that's this is 4.9 meters, and this is 5.2 meters. So it's nearly matching exactly. But the problem that the globe has is that how can their refracted horizon always match the horizontal? Because that's what it is. This is all based off horizontal. All of this is based off of trigonometry and horizontal. The height of the eye correction. It's all based off of a trigonometric function, as I showed earlier. So how can their refracted horizon always be matching that? I'll tell you why. Because they're always trying to get their refracted horizon to match what is the height of eye above the water. So all their refracted horizon nonsense, it's all based off of the observer's height of eye above sea level. So there's all this is a back calculation of that. That's all it is. So let's go again. Let's keep it even. Let's go 10 meters, right? 0.9094. Let's go up here. Sorry. 94. Calculate. Right. 5.64. Right. So where are we here? 10 meters. So right. 5.6. Right. So 5.6. 10.1 is 5.6. So there's very, very small discrepancies but only a very small ones. It's a lot smaller than it is if we were to then trying to use the geometric horizon of the globe, right? So let's go again. Let's go to 20 meters, right? Let's keep it even, right? No, sorry, 0.133, right? 133, calculate, right? 7.98, right? What is it in here? So 20 meters is 20.1, 7.9, right? So there is small discrepancies, right? Because they still have to, still trying to make it a very small arc length, right? An arc length with very small amount of curvature to it. So there is tiny discrepancies, but they're still trying their best with their refracted 7/6 standard nonsense to match what we see in reality. But the problem with that is twofold. Number one is this means that their calculations are all based on trigonometry, which means they have to use a horizontal baseline to do this, right? And Andrew Thomas Young states that all his measurements, right, of San Diego State University, all his refraction measurements are all done over a horizontal plane. He adds the R in afterwards. So it's a tiny amount of R being added in, but their R here would be the little bit of they're adding in is based off of an effective radius of 4,618.83 miles. So it's not the normal 3959 radius. It's a bigger radius, right? But besides the fact that they have to make this claim where they're trying to match basically your height of Y, all they're using is that all they're doing is back calculating off of the height of Y, celestial navigation height of Y above sea level. So any height I put in here, they're just back calculating that as a horizontal eye line, right, above horizontal sea level. That's all they're doing, and they're making that calculation. Then they're adding R, their effective R in, which is an R based off of a 7/6 radius, right? That's what they're doing, but they have to first use two horizontal planes, the eye line as a horizontal, and the sea level as a horizontal. Sea level, horizontal, level, and horizontal are the same thing. There is no curve level. That is just stupid nonsense. That does not exist, right? And it's stupid to even think that level could be an equidistant from the center of some curve thing. That's not what level is. Level is horizontal, and they have to admit it here when they're doing this calculation, because that's all they're doing. All they're doing is doing the height of Y correction, bringing the eye line down to sea level, and then they're calling that their dip to the horizon, which is actually just a degree change down to sea level for the eye line, and then they're adding in their effective radius, and they're doing this. But this is the second part. This is important. If you take something like the black swan image, just as an example, then they don't have an effective radius of 7/6R, an effective radius of 4,618.83 statute miles. For the black swan image, they have an effective radius of 263,000 statute miles. So how do they work that in? They can't. This can never work because their refracted horizon always has to match the height of Y correction in celestial navigation. And the height of Y correction is based off of trigonometry. It's all based off horizontals and verticals. There is no curved lines. They even state it in everything they do, right angles. There's no curved lines. What goes on here is a back calculation of that, and then they try and add in after that. They try and add in their effective radius, whatever that needs to be. It's purely mathematical, a complete load of rubbish. So let's try one more. Let's say 30 meters, 0.163. Let's go up here, right, for 0.163, calculate, right, 9.78 for 30 meters. Now 30 meters is pretty high. So where are we? 20. Let's go right, 30. So 9.6 to 9.7, 29.8, 9.6, right, and here it's right 9.78. So there's a let me see, 9.6. So there's small 9.7. Here we are, 30.4 meters, 9.7. So there's small discrepancies, tiny discrepancies, but only small amounts, a lot less than they have with their geometric horizon. And the reason is what they need to do is they need to be able to take not just like 30 meters, they need to be put in, like when someone puts in 500 meters, let's just say, right, of an observer height. All they're doing there for their refracted dip, right, what they're doing there is, let's just say it's 0.665. Let's go up here. So 0.665, calculate, right? So, right, so you have 39.9 minutes, right? Right, but that's 39.9 minutes is too horizontal because they're calculating it off, that's a 500 meter height of eye correction. So they're bringing the eye line, the correction down to sea level. That's two parallel horizontals. I'm just going to show. So this is what they're doing. Right. So let me see. Come out here a sec. Use it up here. Right. Tools. RB segment. Right. So to here and there to there. Right. There. So what they're doing is like if 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 they're using 500 meters, then this is the 500-meter line here. This is the eye line coming straight out, and all they're doing is they're doing this. They're bringing that line here down to meet this line here, right? So they're bringing this down, right, to meet there, and then afterwards they're adding in they're adding in. If I just get a semicircle, right? This may not be what I'm looking for. I wanted to make actually I wanted the circular arc. It's not what I'm looking for. Anyway, don't matter. I'll get rid of it. Well, I'm looking for, sorry, for this 1 second now. Just bear with me a second. I'm getting there. Right. This might be what I'm looking for, I think. Like that. Right. So what they're doing is they're, right, they're after they've brought the eye line, the 5,000 meter above sea level eye line down to sea level, dealing with two parallel horizontals, they then add a little bit of curve. Right? That's all they do. That's their whole shtick. It's complete and utter nonsense. That's all they're doing. I'm just going to go back here. Sec. Right? So all they're doing is if this is your eye line, right, at 5,000 meters high, right, they're doing a height of height correction for that, bringing the eye line directly down to sea level, which is here. So let's just make this blue. So it's obviously, right, at sea level, and this is eye line. So we make this, I don't want to make color, make this, and make this orange, right, whatever. So eye line is orange, sea level is blue. This is 5,000 meters above sea level. All they're doing is a height of height correction there. And then they're adding in their little effective radius as they need to. And that's what they're doing. So the horizon can be any distance away because they're doing two separate calculations. They're first of all calculating for like they did here. They're doing this kind of a calculation where they're giving themselves what the 7 or 6 hour calculation nearly, where they're giving themselves just a distance to an horizon, and then after that they're changing the position of the horizon and adding in a bit of r, but they're always trying to match the height of eye correction. So all if you put a 5,000 meter observer height into this calculator here, the refracted dip, right, horizon dip, will be a height of eye correction, close to a height of eye, as close to a height of eye correction of 5,000 meters, a celestial navigation height of eye correction as it's possible to get, and that's what they're doing. That's all they're doing, and then they're adding in their refractive radius after that. It's complete and utter garbage. That's what it is. Just and as I said, Andrew Thomas Young states that he does all his measurements over a horizontal plane and then adds in R afterwards, which is why from I'm just going to go to imperial sec. Right, from a 1 foot observer height, right, the refracted horizon is 1.32 miles away. Where do you get that from? Where do you get the 1.32 from? 0.016 from a 1 foot observer height. So that'd be whatever, point something of a meter. The point is that if I'm just going to check that, 0.304 meters. right? 0.304 meters. So let's see, right? So 0.016 degrees, right? Right, 0.016, calculate 0.96, right? 0.96 minutes, right? I don't know if I get that correction, that in here. 0 0.3. No, I don't. I think it's going to be too small. No, so this is 0.3. No, it would be 0.3. So what's the no? Is 0.1. Correction at 0.1, 0.3 meters. What did it say it was here? 0.1, 0.96. Yeah, exactly. Right. That's why. Exactly. Because it's a 0.1, right? A 0.1 correction, right? For 0.3 of a meter, and which is 1 foot. It's slightly less than one third, and it's 0.96 based off of their refracted horizon, right? So that's why their refracted horizon is for 1 foot observer height. We go back there a second. Is 1.32 miles away, because that is based off of triangulation, based off of three straight lines. That's what it's based off of, three straight lines. And this refracted dip is based off of the height of eye of 1 foot down to the waterline, right? And when I'm just going to show here, right? Come out a sec, back in there. Sorry now, right? Just going to show what's happening. So if that's 1 foot above the water, right? Right, for the 1.23, for 1 foot above the water, let's say the black swan observation, they're bringing, right, their calculations for where the horizon is based off of that 1 foot, based off that 0.3 of a meter, and they're doing this to get a 1.23 mile distance to a refracted horizon. They're doing a trigonometry. That's what they're doing, because they're basing it off the height of the eye. So it's nothing to do with where the horizon is or any dip down to anything. It's based off of this, the height of the eye, and then they're adding in their effective radius afterwards. That's what's going on here. It's total utter nonsense. That's where they got that 1.32 from. That because Andrew Thomas Young does all these observations, all these observations over a horizontal plane, all of them, right? And then he says he adds in R. Of course he does, because he gets this first, and then he adds in his little R, his little effective radius. Because that is the R they add in, and this is the effective radius. So they add in the actual R, and then they change it to their effective radius. You know, it's just back calculate. It's just a load of mathematical back engineering from reality. That 1 foot that we see in the black swan observation, that 1 foot above the waterline, that becomes 1.32, a 1.32 mile away refracted horizon within their calculation, because that is a height of eye correction that takes place. So they calculate off its height of eye, the height of the eye above the water, and they do a trigonometric function to get that 1.32. That's what they do. So they must, that's where it all comes from. That's why they have standard refraction, which is standard 7/6. And then they have terrestrial refraction, which is greater than 7/6. 7/6 is what you all, and this is the thing, standard means you will never observe within their model anything that's below, you'll never observe a globe with a radius less than 4,618 miles, even though their globe is 3,959 miles. So they're basically, without trying to make it too complicated, because I know some people out there won't know what I'm talking about, like, what is he talking about? The point is that they are literally using a horizontal plane to come up with these measurements or these calculations. They have to use a horizontal plane because they're using the height of eye correction. That's how they're coming up with them. Because that's how Andrew Thomas Young came up with them. He's using the height of eye correction because they're all trying to match the height of eye correction. And the height of eye correction in celestial navigation, right, here it is, height of eye correction. From here down to there. That's a right angle, 90 degrees, making another 90 degrees in reality. There's nonsense down here that's beneath it. That has nothing to do with anything. That's all calculation and mathematics. This is the only measurement that actually takes place. That happens in reality across a horizontal plane. So you can be sure that what they're doing is just back engineering. As I've said before, as I've shown with their radius and with everything else, just back calculation. That's all they're doing from horizontal plane. Because height of void correction is the height above horizon is the height above the sea level in meters at which the sextant is held during celestial observation. That means a 2 meter means that sextant's 2 meters above the sea underneath the boat, 2 meters above the water underneath the boat, and that is also 2 meters above the horizon. That's what it is. This might have seemed complicated or confusing to some people, but don't worry. Listen to it 2 or 3 times. You'll get the gist of it. We'll be talking about this on FED. Okay, thanks for watching. Take care.